Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Quantities webinar. My name is Nick, and I'll be doing the presentation for you today. Just like all of our webinars, this will be recorded, so you will be able to watch us at a later date. And I'll also be sending out a PDF at the conclusion of the class that covers everything that we've talked about today. If you do have any questions at any point during the presentation, please feel free to go ahead and enter those into the questions area. And at the conclusion of the class, I'll go through and answer any questions that have come up. So again, today's class is on quantities, and I'm just going to go over a quick lesson overview of what we're going to cover today. So every element in Envisioneer has quantity information in its properties, such as the price, the supplier, the part number, and the units. This information is used when a project estimate or quote is generated. What we're going to look at today is going to be looking at and specifying the quantity information for elements, generating an estimate, looking at the report templates, and then generating a quote. The first thing we want to talk about is specifying quantity information for your elements within Envisioneer. So before starting a model, it is a good idea to open your catalog and specify the quantity information for elements that you intend to use in your design. Information such as the price, the supplier, the part number, and the units for pricing. The more fields that you fill out on an element's quantity property page, the more information you will see reported in your estimates and quotes. You can provide even more detail by specifying assemblies for each element and specifying formulas for quantifying those assemblies. Assemblies are parts that are linked to an element but are not visible in your actual drawing. When you specify quantity information for elements in the catalog, that information is permanently saved to the catalog, so you only have to perform this task once. Next, we're going to look at specifying the pricing and other data information. So an element's quantity property hinge subfolder. We're then going to select the first door in that folder, and then that's going to show us the properties of the door in the right-hand pane. So we're just waiting for my catalog to open here. And now that my catalog is open, I'm just going to scroll up to doors. And under doors, I'm going to go to the hinge folder, or I'm going to select the actual entry door here, and I'm just going to select my 2x6 single door. And this will bring up my properties on the right-hand side. And in that, I'm going to select the Quantity tab. When I select the Quantity tab, it's actually going to open up all the information based on the quantity information for that element. So we're going to look at a list of everything that's being quantified for this particular door. So the first one we look at is the manufacturer. So the manufacturer of the product can be listed here. So if you want to use a specific manufacturer, you can create your own manufacturer and add them to the catalog, so that way they are quantified in your reports. You can use the Browse button to access the manufacturer's page. So if I just click on the Browse option here, and then here we have all the different manufacturers that ship with the program. And again, you can actually edit and add in your own manufacturer based on your catalog. So I'm going to click Cancel on that. The next item in the list is Supplier. And this is the company or store who will be supplying the product. So again, you can type in who is going to be providing you with that door itself. The price option is where you can actually enter in the unit price of the product that you're purchasing. The phase option, when I select this, these are the materials are often shipped to the building site in phases, such as site work, foundations, or framing phase. The selection here indicates the phase this particular element is associated with. And again, you can click on the Browse button to select a different phase from our predefined list. So basically what we're saying here is we want this to be delivered on site with all of our exterior openings. So this will include all your doors, windows, again, anything that has to do with exterior openings. Category is the next option we're going to look at, and elements can then be grouped into categories according to their type, such as sheathing or pre-cut lumber. Again, you can click on the Browse button to select a category from the category library. So again, if I select the Browse option, I can again use the CADSoft categories and look at this list. Again, this is completely modifiable, so if you wanted to add in your own categories or phases, you can do that as well. Next is the division, and a construction division identification in North America is sorted by CSI divisions are mostly used. So again, these are just division numbers that are going to be recognized. Next is the part number. So the part number or the SKU number is a series of numbers that identifies the actual product, and this is usually generated based off of the manufacturer's recommendations. They'll have their own part numbers for their elements. Next is the alt code, and this is an extra identification code that can be used, that can be a formula that ties the phase and usage together for increased organization within a list. The usage option, this is an element's usage can help make it more clear what the element is to be used for. So for example, one particular member could be used for basement beams, while another might be used for studs. Again, you can click on the Browse button to select the usage from the usage library. And again, this list is going to be customizable, so you can again add to this list as you see fit as well. I just want to make a note here as well that for framing members, usage can also be set in the framing options for greater flexibility. Next, we have unit of measure. And the unit of measure associated with the element, this gives you, so some examples of this are each, roll, package, and again, you can click on the Browse button to select or add to how you want that particular element to be counted. So if it's going to be sorted by each, if you're going to be buying it by the carton, by the roll, by the bundle, again, we're looking at the door, so it's going to be purchased each. And we're just going to say OK. Next, we have two checkboxes, and we have the first one is include in quantities. So you want to make sure that the include elements in quantities checkbox is enabled. You would disable this option in a remodel project if the object represented an existing element that you didn't want to quantify. So for example, if I am drawing an existing house and I have a bunch of doors and windows already added in because they're part of the existing house, I would draw them out like I normally would in Envisioneer, but I would uncheck this option because I don't need to purchase them. They're already a part of the design. So I would uncheck this include in quantities. The last option is replace with assemblies. And the replace with assemblies enables the assembly elements to quantify, but the main element will not be checked. So in here, if we wanted to, what we could say is if I was to check this, just the entry lock and the deadbolt would be quantified. The actual door would not be. This isn't something that you would really want to do for a door because when you purchase the door, you're also going to want that information as well. So this comes into play when you're looking at your actual walls. So if I was to go out and I was trying to build a 2x4 brick veneer wall, I can't actually go to a lumberyard and buy a 2x4 brick veneer wall. So I don't want to show a 2x4 brick wall in my quantity reports. So when I look at walls in my catalog, if I scroll down to the bottom here to walls, and I look at this, I would have that option checked. So when I create my report, I'm not going to see 2x4 brick wall in my report. I'm only going to see the assemblies that make up that 2x4 brick veneer wall. So again, in some cases, you can use this option to not show the actual element that's in the catalog, just its assemblies, or you can have it unchecked so that you're showing the actual element like a door or a window, plus all of its assemblies. I'm going to scroll back up to doors here, and I'm just going to select that door again. And the next thing we're going to look at is specifying assemblies. So as we're talking about assemblies, so what we're going to be looking at here, so at the bottom of the quantity page, or in our case off to the right-hand side, you can see the assemblies area. And assemblies are parts or materials that are associated with an element, but are not actually drawn in the model. So for an example, doors can have hardware assemblies such as a hinge set and a door lock associated with them. Walls can have assemblies that include drywall, sheets, screws, and paint. Assemblies are included for each element in the project estimate, provided an assembly option is selected on the element's quantity property page. So with our door still selected, we're going to go to, and we're going to select the standard entry door, and we're just going to click Edit. And this is actually going to bring up our Assemblies dialog box. And in here we can see that we have a group called Hardware. And under Hardware, we have just a standard entry door assembly. And in that standard entry door assembly, we have an entry lock set and a deadbolt. If I double click on that, it will bring up the Edit Assembly dialog. And in this Edit Assembly dialog, again, I'm seeing the actual parts. And if I was to click on that, it would let me go through and actually adjust the part being used. So it will take me to the catalog and allow me to choose different door hardware sets. So if I wanted to adjust it to be just a dummy lock set, I could do that and change it out. If I click cancel on this, you can notice that we also have an add and a remove option. So I can actually select an element and say remove if I wanted to, or add. And if I click the add option, it will allow me to add in a new element. So if I wanted to add in an actual dummy lock set as well, it'll add in that lock set. If I wanted to remove it, I could again just select it and then click the remove option to remove it from the list. The calculated quantity column displays how the parts can be quantified. So it can be by a piece count, or by their linear length, their area, or their volume, or by creating a formula depending on the type of part and how it is used and purchased. So in our case, the entry lock set or the standard entry door set are both quantified by a count because there is a certain number of each per door. If we were to click in the count field of our entry lock set, and then we click on the browse button, it will bring up a list for that field. So the specified formula dialog box will now appear, and we can notice that the count appears in the top window of this dialog. This is a simple formula for quantifying this part. You can build any formula by adding variables, operators, functions, and constants to the formula window. For example, if we were purchasing hinges individually rather than in a set, your formula might be count times 2 to report 2 hinges per door, if we were adding in a hinge count set as well. I'm just going to click cancel on that. So in the Edit Assembly dialog box, we want to make sure that I'm just going to click cancel on that and cancel on that. And again, we want to make sure that the replace elements is disabled. And then we're just going to click OK to our dialog box. So next thing we're going to be looking at is specifying formulas. So formulas are the key to quantifying materials accurately in your estimates and your quotes. Formulas can be very simple or more complex depending on the material you are quantifying and how you want to quantify it. The Specify Formula dialog contains a complete selection of formula components that you can use to build virtually any formula. So let's say we want to add a fence to our design. So I'm going to go back up to File, Catalogs, and Element Manager. And you want to report a number of rails, posts, and boards that will be used. To achieve this, you would need to create a formula for each of these assembly items that includes variables for the spacing of the posts, the overall length of the fence, and a rounding factor in case the overall length includes a decimal portion. So again, in our Element Manager, I'm going to scroll down to Fences, and select Fences, and that's going to select the 4-foot standard wood fence. And again, this is going to open up on the right-hand side with all the properties for that particular fence. I'm going to select the Quantity tab, and this is going to be the quantity information for this particular fence. And as you can see, it has 3 different sections under description. So we have a 1x6 fence with one side, we have a fence length, and we have the actual fence posts. So let's see how the fence rail will be quantified. So we're going to click on the Browse button in the Assemblies area to access the Assembly dialog for the 1x6 fence, one side, no spacing. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm just going to click Edit. And this will bring up the Assemblies page, and I'm just going to double click on that 1x6 fence, and that will bring up our Edit Assemblies dialog. And then we're going to click in the Calculated Quantity field in this area here, and we can see that this is actually showing a formula for our 2x4x8 treated fence post, or fence rail. So here we're seeing its length divided by 8 times 3. So this particular formula is broken down, so divide by 8, this is the spacing of the posts is 8 feet, and we will be purchasing 8-foot rails. So we divide the overall length by 8. The multiply by 3 option, we want to add in 3 rails for each 8-foot section of fence, so we multiply the entire equation by 3. Now we want to expand this formula to include a rounding factor to account for a fence length that includes a decimal, so anything that is less than 8 feet. Since we can only purchase whole lengths of lumber, not partial ones. So we will use the trunk function to do this. The trunk function will cut off any decimals in the overall length, for example, rounding it down, and so we're going to place our cursor to the right of the formula, and then we're going to click on trunk. So I'm just going to open this up, and I'm going to click right to the right of the formula there. And this is going to allow me to click on trunk. And I'm going to click on trunk. Oops. Sorry, to the right there, and then click trunk. And you can see that it adds in the word trunk as well as an open bracket. So we now need to put what we are truncating between 2 brackets. So with our cursor, we're going to click just after the number 8. And then we're going to add in a new closed bracket. So our formula should now look like trunk, open bracket, length divided by 8, close bracket, and then divide that by 3. Because the overall length will be truncated or rounded down, we need to account for the portion that was truncated. So now we're going to place our cursor to the left of the second last bracket, and we're going to type in +1. So right here, I'm just going to go in and add in +1. Next, we need to add brackets around the entire equation. You can add these by double-clicking the bracket symbols in the operators list, or you can type them in directly. So again, at the very beginning, I want to add in an open bracket, and then I want to add in a closed bracket after the 1. So what we're saying here is I want to take what's inside these brackets, figure that out first. Once that's figured out, I'm then multiplying that by 3. So that's why everything is inside brackets, because we want that portion done first before we multiply that by the number of rails needed. So now we're going to test our formula. So we're going to use a fence length of 20 feet. So according to our formula, this should give us 9 rails. 6 rails for the 2 full 8-foot sections, plus 3 more rails for the remaining 4-foot section. So we're going to click on the test option, and where it says length, we're going to type in 20. So I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to type in 20, and hit tab, and we get 9. So we know that our formula is actually working. So now that we know that the formula works, we can now save this formula for future use if desired by clicking the Save option. And if I click the Save option, we can now give this a special name, and then we can use the Load option to load it at any time in any future projects. We're going to close the Specify Formula dialog. So I'm just going to click Cancel, and I'm just going to cancel all the way out. And I'm going to close out of the Element Manager. So while my catalog is restoring, the next thing we're going to be looking at is generating a project estimate. So once you have defined the quantity information for elements in your catalog and have created a model, you can generate a project estimate with the click of a button. So we're going to do this. We're going to go to, and we're going to select the Tools, Analyze, Generate Estimate. So Tools, Analyze, and we're going to select the Generate Project Estimate. The Generate Project Estimate dialog box appears displaying the quantities of each element in your design. You'll also notice fields such as division, price, and unit, the same fields that we filled out in our quantity properties page. The Generate Project Estimate dialog also contains a Cut List tab. The Cut List quantifies deck members, excluding your deck boards, as well as any members you have inserted with the Members tool, and reports both actual and purchased lengths. So if I click on the Cut List, so again, if we look at our list here about available templates, we have the standard report form, which will show you just based off a division. There are different report forms in here, so if we use the quote generator option, this will be broken down into the phase and usages, so you can see when it's going to be delivered on site. So again, you want to have your wall framing built before you start getting your roof framing stuff sent to the site, so that's how it's sorted here. And under the cut list options, we can see how each of those members is actually going to be cut and what they're being used for. So again, if I go back to here and we want to look at our report templates, so the layout and content of the estimates are determined by a report template. And like I was showing you, you can choose between different report templates and edit existing templates to suit your needs. So I'm going to go back up and I'm going to select the standard report form, and I'm going to, so by default, the standard report form is used to display the estimate. The list you see here includes templates that are designed to work with many popular spreadsheets and estimating programs. To use a different template, you can simply select it from the list like we were talking about, and it will update automatically according to the template settings. So you're not limited to the templates that ship with Envisioneer. You can edit any templates or create new templates from scratch using the tools in the Generate Project Estimate dialog. So I can actually go in here and I can create a new template, open a template, or edit a template. I'm just going to click the Edit Template option, and this will then open the Specify Reports template. And under the General page is where you can specify the basic information, such as the template name, the report file extension, and how you want to sort the information in the actual report itself. You can also prevent specific elements from appearing in the estimate by disabling them in the element filter on the right-hand side. So if I don't want to see appliances in this particular report, I can make sure that they are disabled so they're not going to show up in my reports. Again, you can go through that template element filter and turn off anything you don't want to see. The optimization settings page contains settings that pertain specifically to the cut list. So if I go back to the cut list optimization here, so the settings on a template records page, so the cut list optimization page, here we can go through and specify the rules for our cut list optimization. So how we want them to be calculated. Do you want total linear length? Do you want to cut down our long members? We can cut one piece from each purchased length. And then you can also use the group similar length items as well. Again, we have options for tolerance, saw cut allowance, and maximum scrap length. So if you want to make sure that you're using all the material that is actually shipped to the site, you can set your maximum scrap length here. We can also adjust how the report is going to be displayed. So again, we're actually grouping by location first. So here we have our location, ground floor. Or you can group it by usage. Again, it's going to allow you to customize how you want that to look. The last tab is the Records tab. So the settings on a template's records page determine how report headers, footers, and element entries appear in a project estimate. Records are made up of individual fields. You can edit, add, delete, or copy fields within a record, giving you complete control over how information is going to be reported. So again, when we look at our header here, we can see that it's being sorted by division, description, quantity, unit, price, and so on. And that is what this is actually allowing you to do. So by default, all the elements will have this. If we look at the actual header information, our main header, we're showing the quantity reports, and then the drawing name. And then sort level 2, we have our location, a spacer, and then we have our actual division description quantity. So again, it's just another level of allowing you to control how that report is going to look. And cancel out of there. And no, I don't want to save any changes. And I'm going to exit out of there. The next thing we want to talk about is generating a quote. So a quote is a list of products with quantities, pricing, and other important information. Quotes are used by building materials supply retailers, wholesalers, distributors, and contractors to facilitate the design, sale, and installation of your construction projects. You can use the Generate Quote tool to instantly generate a quote that opens in Quote Generator. This is a separate software application that opens in an independent window. In Quote Generator, you can manipulate the data to suit your needs, generate a variety of reports, and export the quote to a point-of-sale system or an accounting program. And just to note here, the Quote Generator tool is only available in the Envisioneer Construction Suite package. So we're going to go to Tools, Analyze, and I'm going to select Generate Quote. And if there are any products with a zero cost value, you're going to get a dialog box that's going to give you an alert that says that it's a warning saying that there is zero prices in your list. So we're just going to say OK to that because we know that that's going to happen. And once this opens, it will allow you to see all of the elements that are being used. So this quote is displayed in a grid, which is kind of like a spreadsheet. The grid consists of columns and rows. Each row in the grid contains a record. On the left side of the grid, the arrow in the record selector column indicates which record is current. So we have a little arrow here, so we're saying that that is the currently selected element. So if I click in here, I can see that that's the arrow, and it highlights what that element is. When you select a record in the record selector column, the row is highlighted in yellow, letting you know that it is active. You can select more than one record at a time, making it possible to make the same change to multiple records simultaneously. You can add, edit, and delete records in the grid. If you right-click in a grid, a menu of editing tools will appear. These tools allow you to make modifications to the records in that current quote. So for example, if I select this option and I simply right-click, I get a list of all the different commands that are available to me for that particular element. Next, I want to talk about the product database. So Quote Generator ships with an empty database that is ready to be populated with your products. If you use a spreadsheet or an accounting package for inventory control, and that program can export your product data to a CSV file, you can import that data into the Quote Generator database via the CSV file, provided the file has a particular structure. To import a database, you would select the Tools, Data, Import CADSoft Catalog. Once you have populated the QG database with your products, you can substitute stock items for products in the quote via the SKU numbers. This is called mapping. When you map a record to an element in the database, the record cells update automatically with the values set for the item in the database. You can also add new records to your quote that contain stock items. So for example, I could select this framing nail, right-click, and I can actually switch out or substitute products. So I could go in here and say substitute product, and it will allow me to now search through and find a different product for framing nail if I wanted to, if I had a different framing nail option in here. So this just allows you to have greater flexibility on what products you want to show in your reports. And I'm going to click cancel. And the next thing I want to talk about is your quote modes. So there are 4 quote modes in Quote Generator. Each displays unique information. When you first generate a quote, the quote is displayed in the product details mode. And if I wanted to, and that's going to be mode 1, view, and if I wanted to, I could switch between the different views. So mode 1 is what we're looking at, which is the product details mode. This lists the product's description, SKU numbers, quantities, and information such as the phase, category, and usage. You can move and delete products in this view. Mode 2 is an admin mode. This lists the basic product details and displays price controls such as markups, margins, retail pricing, profits, and tax information. Mode 3 is a project details, and this lists the SKU numbers and descriptions of the products so you can export the data listed. And mode 4 is the manufacturing details option, and this is similar to the admin mode with additional fields for manufacturing information. In the quote generator, we can also change how it's going to be displayed in a report form. So the next one we're looking at is reports. So once you have manipulated the data in the quote grid to suit your needs, you can instantly view your reports based on the data in the quote and the quote settings. Reports are displayed in the reports window. So there are 5, in our case there's going to be 3 predefined reports available. So I'm going to go up to reports here, and when I click on that reports button, I'm going to get a dialog box that's going to allow me to choose which reports I want to see. So here we're seeing our report, and this one is allowing us to adjust the actual report and how it's going to be displayed. So this one is going to be our group by phase reports. We also have a pull list, which will be an internal list, and then we also have an order summary, which will also be an internal list. So these two options will only be used within the yard itself, so that they know what to pull for the site, and then a little order breakdown as well. If we want to send this to our client, we would probably use this group by phase option, and this will allow them to see everything that's being used, but as you can see, there's some information being left out. So it's not actually giving them an actual price per element, and it's not giving them an actual quantity of that element as well, because we don't want them to use this as a shopping list to take to another site, to another lumber yard. So it's just giving them a running breakdown of what the total cost is going to be, what parts are going to be used, or what elements are going to be used, but it's not giving them an actual itemized breakdown. Here we can see when we look at our order summary, this one will give us an actual breakdown of how much of what it is being used, and then the actual prices as well. So using the report designer as well, you can customize the report content, such as the header and footer information, grouping and sort order of the products, and the report layout, including fonts, margins, and spacing. You can also bring in your own company logo. So again, by default, this will ship with the CADsoft information. You can make those adjustments so that it's using your actual company information. So we're going to select, and under our reports window, we can now go through and, again, control what's going to be displayed. So if we only want to show particular elements in our reports, so let's say we only want to show the actual members, I can turn off everything, regenerate that report, and now I'm only going to see the actual members for that project. If I only want to see doors, I can say regenerate the report, and now I'm only going to see the doors that are going to be assigned for that project. So again, this list can be customized and adjusted based on what you want to see. And I'm just going to click close on this, and we're going to go to Tools, and we're going to select the Tools Report Designer. So the Report Designer lets you customize the report content, layout, and appearance. So it includes a preview tab so that you can see what your report will look like. So again, off to the right-hand side here, we can see all of the, all the information that's going to be included in that report. We can go through the list of each one of these and adjust how it's going to look. So if we look at our quotes option, which is when we will be sending out to our clients, we can adjust what is going to be visible for the client to see. So as I was talking about, we don't want them to actually see everything being quantified. So we don't want to actually show anything other than just the grand total. So what the actual total cost is going to be, that's what we're actually able to control and show there. Under the report layout, again, I don't want to show them the quantity information, so that is going to be unchecked. So again, this is just giving you further control of how that report is going to look. And I'm just going to close that report designer window. And the next thing I want to talk about is updating inventory in Quote Generator. So Quote Generator creates a list of all the products that were inserted into the CADsoft model. A CSV file can be maintained in Excel and imported into Quote Generator, so you have an up-to-date list of inventory, which can also include pricing. So exporting a CSV file of inventory out in Envisioneer, this is all the products used in Envisioneer can be exported out as a CSV file to keep the inventory and quote generator up to date. So to do that, I'm going to close quote generator here. I'm going to go to File, Catalogs, and I'm going to select Element Manager. And once I select Element Manager, I'm now going to go to File, and I'm going to say Export Text File. This will allow me to go through and export this out as a CSV file format. So I'm going to select CSV file, and I'm going to save this to my desktop. And I'm just going to call this quantity test, or quantity webinar. And I'm going to say save. So that will create a CSV file with all of that information. I'm just going to click cancel, minimize, and I'm going to open this with Excel. So I just want to point out too, so when you export the catalog from Envisioneer, it can't export any of the purchase items. So that is actually done separately to a different CSV file. So once we've saved that to our CSV file format, we can see how it actually looks here. And this is the format in which it needs to be to bring this into Quote Generator. And then you would go through here and you'd be able to add in all of your pricing information for all of these elements. So you can go through this list for the elements that you want and add in the pricing for all of your doors. And then you would add in that price. And from there, this is the CSV file that you would keep updated. So if your pricing changes by the month or every couple of months, you would keep this CSV file updated with those pricing changes, and then you would just reload that into Quote Generator, so that way your Quote Generator database is up to date. So again, once you have that saved, I'm just going to close that, and I'm going to say no, and I'm going to go back into Envisioneer. So now we can talk about importing your elements directly to Quote Generator. So in Envisioneer, we're going to start the Quote Generator tool again. So we're going to go Tools, Analyze, Generate Quote. And again, we're going to step through the dialogues here. So Quote Generator will start, and then the spreadsheet interface will list any inventory which you have drawn in Envisioneer. This must be removed before you can import a CSV file of data. So I just need to left-click once here, and then I'm going to move my mouse all the way down, holding my Shift key, and I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom here. And then with my Shift key selected, I am going to select that last option, and that's going to highlight everything. I can just go right-click and select Delete Items, and that will remove absolutely everything from that list. So now I can go to Tools, Data, and I can now select the Import CADSoft Catalog. And I can then select that CSV file from my desktop, which is where I saved it, and it will now load in all of those new prices that I've adjusted in that CSV file. So again, anytime that you update that CSV file, you would need to reload it in the Quote Generator to make sure that those new pricing changes are taking effect as well. I'm just going to click Cancel and Close, and I'm just going to go over a quick overview of what we've covered today, because there was quite a bit. So the building information modeling technology in Envisioneer makes it possible to generate accurate estimates and quotes that reflect the way you do business. So some key points to remember: every element in the catalog has a quantity page in its properties where you can specify the quantity information such as the price, supplier, and part number. Using assemblies to quantify parts or materials that are associated with an element but are actually drawn in your model. You can use formulas to accurately quantify materials in the manner in which you would purchase them. You can use the project estimate tool to display a bill of materials instantly at any point in the design process. You can apply a variety of templates to your estimates, which are compatible with other software tools. You can add, edit, and delete report templates to suit your design needs. Templates determine what type of file is created when you save the estimates, as well as the estimate's content, organization, and layouts. You can also use the generate quote tool to instantly generate a quote that opens in Quote Generator, which is an independent application. In Quote Generator, you can import a product database, manipulate the quote data, generate a variety of reports, and export the quote to a point-of-sale system or an accounting program. So again, we covered quite a bit today, so I'm going to open up the questions section. So if you have any questions at all about what we've covered today, please go ahead and enter those in, and I'll do my best to answer those for you. Okay, so one question is, how would I price the lock set and deadbolt? Also for a wall, the studs, drywall, etc. So again, in that Excel spreadsheet that we exported out, that's where you would add, if you're using the quote generator, that's where you would add in that pricing information. So that way when you export it out to quote generator, it's going to list that pricing in there. If you're not using quote generator, then you need to do that within the actual catalog. And I believe that's where your second question is coming in. If you put the price and the quantity in the property section, why do you need to put it in the CSV file? Okay, so that part of your question, if you're doing it in the catalog, when you export out the CSV file, it will still show you in that CSV file that price that you've added in. The reason why you need to do the CSV file is if you're using Quote Generator, then that's why you need that CSV file. If you aren't using Quote Generator, then you don't need to worry about exporting it out as a CSV file. That's just a step for using Quote Generator. The nice thing about doing it in a CSV file is that it's all in one place. So in that CSV document, you can open it up, you can scroll through the list and manually make the changes very quickly within the CSV file itself. If you're changing prices within Envisioneer, you need to open up the element manager, find the element, go to the quantity tab, adjust the price. It can be done. It's just a little bit more detail, a little bit more tedious as you're going through each individual element. Whereas if it's a CSV file, then you're actually going through one file, and then you can go through and edit it in that particular CSV file itself. So to get back to your first question, how would I price the lock set and deadbolt? I'm just going to go in and show you. So if I wanted to, I could go into File, Catalogs, Element Manager, and then under my entry door, I'm going to go to Quantity, and then in my entry lock sets, I'm going to go in and select Edit, Standard, Entry Lock Sets. Under the properties of that, I would now go in and add in a price. So if this is $45, I would add in the $45 and say OK. And if I wanted to do the same for my deadbolts, and we'll say the deadbolt is $20, I would say OK. And then OK. And then OK. And OK. And OK. So now when I go and I do my quantity reports within Envisioneer, it's going to pull up those prices for me. Again, this is going to take a second to save the catalog. So depending on how big your catalog is and your system itself, the catalog will save quickly or slowly, again, depending on what you're working with. Since I'm running on a laptop and I am running with the webinar going, it's going to take a little bit longer. So let's wait for that to save. And then once this is done saving, when I generate my report, it should show me the new pricing for those particular elements. I will need to replace them in the actual drawing note. So I'll have to select that door and make sure I adjust the door itself. Which is a handy tip as well, because just because you're updating the catalog with that change, you've already added that element to the drawing, so it's now independent from the catalog. So even though I made that change in the catalog, it hasn't been changed in the actual drawing. So again, I made that change to this element. So when I go into the quantity and I look at this lock set, it's going to show me the pricing. But when I look at this door and I go into the quantity, as you can see, it's showing an _1. It's because that actual information has been changed. So all I need to do is simply right-click and just say replace. And I'm going to replace that with the same door. And now when I go back into the quantity, it's now using that standard entry door. And when I say edit, entry lock set, it's showing that 45. So I'll cancel all that out. And now tools, analyze, generate project estimates. I should now see a price for those elements themselves. So there's the 45 and the 20. So you can go through the catalog, add in your pricing that you want to for all of your elements in the catalog. That is not a problem. You can do that. If you need to update any pricing, you'll need to open the catalog up, find that element, and adjust the pricing. If you're using the quote generator, I recommend using the CSV file export option, leaving all your prices as 0 in the catalog, and just using the CSV file to update your prices. So another question is, if we do the price changing through the CSV file and import it back in, does it automatically change the prices within the catalog? I think that kind of refers back to what I was just saying. I wouldn't change the actual prices in the catalog. I would leave those as 0. I would keep my CSV file as where I make those pricing changes. So that way, I'm only updating the one area of the program using the CSV file. Someone is saying I'm muted. Are you guys able to hear me okay? Okay. I'm not sure if you're just having issues with your phone or not, but if you're able to hear me, okay, you can hear me now, okay. So again, if you're changing the prices through the CSV file and you import it back, you don't need to change the catalog because the catalog is still going to show 0. It's just the CSV file that is being updated. Again, you're only making the price changes in the CSV file if you're taking advantage of the quote generator tool. If you're not using the quote generator tool, then don't worry about updating the CSV file. Make your changes in your catalog. Let me know if that helps you out. If not, I can revisit that and we can talk more about that. But again, CSV file should only be used if you're going to be using the quote generator tool, which is only a part of the construction suite package. So I'll leave that question section open for a couple of more minutes. So again, if you do have any questions about what we covered today, please feel free to go ahead and enter those in. I will be sending out a PDF at the end of the class, which will go through everything that we've talked about today as well. So that way you have some documentation to refer back to as well. So I'll leave that open for another minute. So again, if you do have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and take advantage of our time together, and I'll do my best to answer those for you. All right, well, that looks like that's all the questions. Oh, another one just popped up. So the question is, any way to do the CSV file with the project estimator? You could export it out. File. I'd have to double check on that. I'm not 100% sure that that would work. I mean, there is an import catalog option, but I don't know if it's going to bring in all of the information or all the elements. Let me look into that and see. I'm going to say no for the time being, but let me look into that in more detail and see if there is a way. But again, from my understanding, that export option is used for quote generator. All right, well, that seems to be all the questions. So I want to thank everybody for attending today. Again, I will be sending out that PDF, so you will have some documentation to refer back to. And I look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. Thank you very much and have a great day.